Hey everyone, Anthony Venuti here with In Touch Mortgage Solutions. It's Friday, Finance Fridays, and on this video, we're going to talk about appraisals and buyers and what happens if you can't sell your house. What do you do? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it next. This week at In Touch Mortgage Solutions has been a very interesting week for us as we're getting a couple of calls from our existing clients that are facing some issues, as well as some clients that are coming to us from other institutions or other brokerage houses that are facing very similar complications. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've purchased a home and you have yet to sell your home, obviously that can be putting a lot of pressure and stress on you and your family. So we'll start with our clients that we were working with. And obviously we had securitized a good rate for them back when rates were much lower back in February. They ended up purchasing a home and have now basically got the appraisal. Everything was done and that purchase is ready to go. The only outstanding variable, the component that we're missing, is the sale. So obviously the clients are very concerned because when the transaction started and we spoke with the listing agent and we basically started going through all the numbers and the net proceeds, how much money was to be left over after land transfer tax, legal fees, penalties to get out of their fixed rate mortgage, so on and so forth. We ran the numbers. They wanted to put some money down for renovations. Obviously the clients were selling for a significant amount of money. They made very good money. They qualified for putting down as little as 25 to 30%. Obviously, they were going to be putting down much, much more. So basically, their concern was, and if we don't sell for the expected price and we end up selling for a little bit lower, what do our numbers look like and how does that impact and what range, can we basically list? What's the bottom dollar? And obviously, running those numbers, each case is individual, each client is unique. So obviously we ran those numbers for that client. They were very happy. We were still able to provide them with the numbers. The expectation obviously is where the problem lies, is because they were expecting one price. And as the market shifts, home prices, may come down a little bit. Interest rates are going to go up. Obviously there's less demand in the market as we see a lot of buyers, pushed to the sidelines. We have a couple of them left and still in the market with those approvals that are going to be coming due, expiring, those pre-approvals with very historically low rates in comparison to now coming due in June and July and some very, very early August. So obviously that was a particular scenario where we were working with them to help them understand it. And they rested assured. They were very happy with the understanding that, hey, when we built it in, we applied for a mortgage that was much higher than what they needed so that we can always pull back and give them that runway. As opposed to the clients that came to us from another brokerage house, they got our information online. So thank you to all our viewers for supporting and sharing these videos. And basically what had happened was, for some reason, they had purchased at the end of March and the appraisal itself had not basically been ordered on the purchase. So they were waiting on the sale, but the purchase was completed with an execution date and a confirmed irrevocable. All that information was there, all the income. They should have, looked at that and said, hey, let's close this down. And then basically what I did for my other clients, making sure that they are aware of their numbers and where they stand. So because these clients were basically, in that predicament right now where they don't know exactly how much money they're going to net out, for some reason they weren't given that data. We ran the numbers, looked at their scenarios. Much like my clients, they wanted to put some money aside to help with some additional work that needed to be done to the house, and like roof and windows. And basically what they wanted to do is make sure that they had that money aside to do that work when they sold. Luckily, these clients had a home that they had purchased over 10 years ago, very small mortgage on the home, and we had a significant amount of equity that was able to be utilized. Now, the clients basically, were talking to us about walking away, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't want to walk away from this purchase because there's obviously ramifications if you do so, and potential lawsuits and being sued. So, you do want to make sure that you're closing on and giving this client the options, because we had basically taken over this file from someone else, saying, look, here are basically some scenarios for this client and for maybe viewers out there that are in this position. Obviously, number one is understanding your backstops. Do you have someone that has access to more money in the event that you need that additional funds to close? You want to keep that money on the side. Do you have a co-signer? Are you willing to work with an equity lender? Are we able to position this property, take the equity out, take it off the market, use that home, the new home as your owner occupied, and then position that property short term maybe with an equity lender, maybe with another alternative lender, obviously understanding the bridge financing, right? How long this home is going to basically need bridge finance for, and if the home is sold, because the key component with this client as we were approaching that closing window is that the home had not sold. And this is sort of maybe the backstory. The reason why we want to do these videos is understanding the scenarios that are available to clients out there in this scenario. Going to private lending and equity lending and understanding all those options is obviously important. Costly, there's always a solution. It all depends on how much that solution is going to cost. But in this particular case, you can't get the bridge financing on this home unless you have a firm sale and a firm purchase, right? So understanding, saying, look, if we don't have this home sold by a specific date, which is, maybe 10, 15 days prior to the closing of this other home, we need to reshift focus. We need to be prepared to jump through hoops in order to get this deal done and make sure that you don't, fall short of breach of contract and not close on this home on the day that you're supposed to close. And the clients were pretty much impressed, very, very shocked by the fact that this was never explained to them, right? They was just basically, let me get the mortgage done and so on and so forth. And obviously the clients would come to us. Unfortunately, they lost the rate that they had with the previous brokerage house, but it was just basically a mess according to what they had said. And it just sort of reiterates the purpose of why we're doing these videos and trying to help educate. And it's always important to understand who you work with matters. And, obviously dollars saved today on interest rate. This transaction, if it failed to go through, they would have had to potentially maybe go to a private. It would have cost them a lot more money. Who knows exactly how that transaction would have happened, because at that point, the client's only concern is, I don't want to get sued. I need to close this house. And if it happens on the 11th hour, you're sort of stuck with very limited resources and definitely limited options. Where if you plan ahead, you start to get these deals looked at, understanding those scenarios, planning accordingly. That is very, very important. And this is something that we see that could potentially and is starting to happen as we start to see the market shift. So if you're out there and you've maybe purchased a home, you're in the process of selling your home and you're not 100% sure exactly, what your outs are, how that's going to work out for you, what your options truly are, in the sense, if you don't sell that house by the closing day, it's important to have a conversation with a licensed mortgage professional who works for you and not for an institution, so that you'd have all the options available to you. And that's one thing as a mortgage professional who's been in the banking industry, you have to understand the bank, they're going to sell their product. They can only work within their limits. They can't exceed outside of that. And working with professionals that are outside of that scope have access to different lenders who can do different things at different times. So I don't want to do this as a plug here, but it literally happened, appraisal not coming in. How do you position the client properly? What are the options, and what does that client have as a solution? Because that client, as I mentioned earlier on, was in a particular scenario where they had the capacity to put more money down. What happens if you're buying with 20% down and that value comes in less? Are you given the options to say, look, here are your backstops? Do you have these backstops in play? And if that's the case, should you be buying? Should you be waiting? Or should you be looking for other alternatives like paying off some debts? These are things that we've worked with the clients and saying, look, if you buy this home and this value comes in a little bit less, we need to shift some of that down payment to maybe cover that debt, pay off this car, do these things. These are not things that are uncommon, but it's understanding how the whole picture comes into play. So I'll leave the video here. I hope you found this video informative. And if you did, please don't forget to hit the share, like, and subscribe button. Leave your comments below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we post new and exciting content. And make sure to share the video with someone if you think that they might benefit from this content, or maybe they're in this scenario and you want to give them the options and say, hey, look, have you discussed these things with your professional or with your institution, so that it may give you some silver lining and maybe sleep at night a little bit better, right? So hope you found this video helpful. We'll leave it here. Hope everyone has a great Friday and an even better weekend ahead. Until next week, stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in.